Go for it.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. And I want to welcome you to this virtual visit from the county. And I want to thank all of you who are joining us for taking the time out of your day today to join us. And if you are watching this on a recording, either tomorrow or over the weekend, I want to thank you for taking the time out and making it a priority for you to watch this visit. I appreciate everyone's interest in the County of Middlesex. It's been said over and over again, but these certainly are interesting times. And because of this, we are prevented from visiting each and every one of you in your individual municipalities. This virtual platform, however, has offered us all a unique opportunity, and we hope that you will enjoy the presentation, and at the end of it, you will have learned a little bit more about the County of Middlesex, and most of all, what's going on.
Well, Cathy, we've received our first question already by text message. Yes, that is a real dog. That's Baxter, and he's probably just going to sleep through this, and hopefully you won't. Be a little more attentive than Baxter is. We'd appreciate it. There's a couple other little Q&A type things I need to tell you about. You should see the Q&A button on your screen, and feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation. I have to remind you again that we're recording this for a YouTube video, and for those of you that are watching it on YouTube days after or as soon as we put it up, if you have questions, please feel free to send them to me at cao@middlesex.ca or mdlsx.ca. If you only see one of us on the screen, there is a gallery view button on your screen as well, and you can find that so you can see my nice new coat and that I haven't worn in 2 months, and see Cathy's face at the same time. So there's the webinar 101, and Cathy, why don't you talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today?
Sure, thanks, Bill. So many of you have participated in the traditional county visits that happen on a yearly basis. And usually it's an opportunity to look back on the year from a county council perspective. This year, though, the presentation is going to be a little different. When I became warden, one of my priorities was to put the county through a strategic plan process. We haven't gotten to that yet, but we are all now in the mindset of looking forward. And so with this in mind, this presentation really has a where do we go from here perspective. Taking a quick look back at the past year will help us all better understand where we are going. In addition to answering your questions and thinking through the future of county services, the format like this really gives us the opportunity to bring more of our team together. It allows us to introduce to you some of the senior management that perhaps maybe you haven't met before. A regular visit doesn't allow us to bring everybody to your council chambers. So I'm excited because this is a great opportunity for you to put a face to a name. And I've had the opportunity over the last couple of months to really get to know our senior staff a little bit better than I did before. And it's an incredible team we have here at the County of Middlesex. And I'm excited to be introducing them to you. And I really hope you enjoy the afternoon that we've got in store for you. Bill.
Well, let's start by taking a look back, as Cathy said, and thank you, Cathy. We're excited to do this. And this picture on the right represents two things. One, it represents the largest height discrepancy between a warden and a CAO in county history. And thankfully, someone put a hill for me to stand on, because those are all rather tall gentlemen that I was in the picture with. But more importantly, it marks one of the most influential and important historic decisions made by county council. It was made unanimously, and that was the selling of the properties at 50 King and 399 Rideout Street to York Developments. This certainly was a decision that did not come lightly. It took a few years actually to get to this point, but in the end we had a unanimous choice to move forward with the sale, and I think this sale has set us up very well for the future in Middlesex County for the next generation. And just to give you an idea where we are in this, the next steps as we see them, we were delayed. We were supposed to complete everything in April. But with COVID hitting, it put us back by a month. And so now the sale will be completed in May of this year. And you may be wondering, well, what does that mean for us? Where will we be going? Well, we have a free use of the building for 5 years while the 50 King Street property is being developed. And so we're going to be at the same spot for the foreseeable future. But over that course of that time, we're going to be doing a lot of work, and we've already started a lot of work on figuring out what our facility needs are going forward. And I can tell you right now that a lot of the questions we're asking, especially with the information we're getting from the last 2 months, is what type of footprint do we need? I can tell you that we favor a decentralized model where we get as close as we can to the citizens we serve. And so we're trying to figure out what type of service model we're going to use for those facilities, and how many we're going to need, and what space requirements we have. But we've got a little bit of time to figure that out, and we will. Another thing that happened in 2019 that we're really excited about is a changeover in the leadership at Swift, not only from the executive seats, but also from the board seats. And that has really allowed Swift to advance in 2019 to where they're actually started projects in some counties. And that's great news, because it also means that they're finally getting around to coming to Middlesex to do some work in Middlesex. And you'll see on the screen that the RFPs are out for February of this year, and that in November the contracts will be awarded, and in spring of 2021 we should see some construction. So we're pretty excited about that. I think it would be fair to say that at the provincial level last year we saw a lot of change, and the warden and I both believe we saw a lot of exceptional change, meaning that there's a move towards trying to get more efficiency and effectiveness out of the system. And we've been working hard with the provincial government on understanding where they want to go, and then also trying to match that up to the goals of our citizens and to us in terms of service delivery. And so we're rapidly changing. I think we had a really rapid year of change that was the catalyst for that really was the willingness on the provincial side to make some changes that would allow this change to happen. And the one area that and I'll bring Morgan in here to talk a little bit about this, Morgan Calvert. The one area that the warden and I are really excited about is the Municipal Modernization Program. The warden and I wrote a letter to the minister and to the premier thanking them for this, because we think that this has opened up a whole new world for both the local and county governments to work together to have modernization. Morgan, why don't you talk a little bit about some of our activities in 2019?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bill. This program is one that I personally am absolutely excited about. It's a program that was announced by the province back in March of 2019 that provided funding to Ontario's small and rural municipalities to plan, modernize, and improve the way municipal services are provided. When this program was first announced, the county and local municipalities, primarily the CAOs, quickly came together to discuss how we could potentially collaborate on some common initiatives. Through these discussions, we have built a very positive and collaborative relationship with all of our local CAOs. It is actually amazing to see how well everyone is working together and some of the great ideas that have resulted from these modernization discussions. In December of 2019, the county and local municipalities submitted 2 applications under the province's Municipal Modernization Program, to which both applications were successful. We were the only group to submit 2 joint projects, and we were the only group to have 2 successfully funded municipal modernization projects. Both of these projects will, of course, build capacity and create new capabilities while providing efficient, effective municipal services across Middlesex County and our collective local municipalities. One project in particular is what we are calling Digital Transformation Top 10. This will basically see a list of top 10 projects developed that are common among the county and each local municipality, so that we can work toward implementation of these top 10 projects collectively. By doing this, it'll reduce the amount of time we spend individually implementing these projects, but also the costs associated, as well as creating some consistencies in service delivery. So finally, I would say thank you to the province, as Bill mentioned, for launching this program. It's already done a lot for municipalities across Ontario, from encouraging innovation to developing stronger relationships and reducing costs to delivering services.
Morgan, thanks for your leadership on Municipal Modernization Program. And you've also been taking the lead for us with SWIFT. And we had a question about when can the locations of the RFP for Middlesex be sent to local councils? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So we're currently going through the procurement process with SWIFT. They've launched their RFPs. It's going to take until November before the procurement process closes. So what that means is we'll use the winter months to determine what contracts will be awarded to what service providers. And then at that time, we'll have more of an understanding of where SWIFT will be going into our various communities.
But we can tell them, Morgan, we can tell our local municipalities where we have asked SWIFT to work, because we can show them the circles that we've, in our agreement, we've put forward. So maybe we can redistribute that to the local CAOs so that it helps answer those questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had another question about municipal modernization, about who pays for municipal modernization. Morgan, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, so the province will pay for that first phase of municipal modernization, which is a review of the services that each local municipality is currently providing, including the county. And then beyond that, the province has also sent a one-time transfer payment for modernization or efficient effectiveness dollars. So we're looking to probably pull on some of those dollars as well to modernize service delivery. So it's really a heavily provincially funded program, and that's where we're going to try to take advantage of those dollars. Thanks
a lot, Morgan. Oh, we might have one more quick question on that. Oh, he just said thank you. You're welcome, Daniel. So another thing that happened last year was a lot of talk about restructuring, municipal restructuring. There's been talk about this for health units, land ambulance, but I want to focus in on administrations of municipal governments. There was a lot of restructuring talk at the time, and we were very vocal with the province about what we thought should be done in terms of municipal structures going forward. We've been a strong believer for a long time that that there should be many governance opportunities and not less. And that's kind of different from what other people have said in the past. I think all of us lived through amalgamations and restructurings that were simply making a job for less jobs for counselors, and didn't really achieve the savings and efficiencies that we were looking for. And so we've taken the opposite approach. We've said that we think that to support the common taxpayer, we should first try to provide as much local support for efficiency and increased specialization as possible by working together in partnerships. And that we think that's the way to make sure that a larger restructuring isn't necessary. I think it's also important that we've been talking to the province about how we think there should be more governance bodies, not less. I think we've all lived through the results of a Thames Valley District School Board restructuring or a LIN, and we know that governance, local governance, is extremely important. And at the same time, we're saying to the province, by working together with all of our partners beyond municipal government even, that there is a way to reduce administration and have more governance. And we think that's the right solution. And I think for the most part, our ideas have been well received by the government. So we are daring to be different. And a lot of that has to do with our municipal modernization program. I'd like to also talk about a really big, Cindy, if you could come on the screen for a second, I just would like to have you talk about the community transit project. This is a project that we received funding for from the provincial government early last year, and we're moving forward with it now.
Thanks, Bill. I'm not sure what's going on with my...
That's okay, you can just talk. Oh, there you go. You're at the county building today. How about that?
Thanks very much, Bill, and happy to be here today. I get the pleasure to briefly talk about the Community Transportation Project. So Middlesex County was funded by the Province of Ontario for the Community Transportation Project. And the grant was funded for up to $1.5 million, and the project goes until March 31st, 2023. So the microtransit service will link communities in the municipality of Thames Centre to London and Woodstock/Oxford County. The goal for the project is to provide transportation for a number of groups: seniors, youth and students, low income, and employment purposes. Of course, everybody is welcome, but that's kind of our main focus. The key phases of the project include community engagement, a soft launch, full implementation, evaluation of the system, and likely we'll see lots of changes happen. And finally, creating a sustainability plan so we can continue it on after 2023. So today, we have been reaching out to our community and our partners in Oxford County and London Transit. So thanks very much. They've been great partners and really coming to the table. We've also reached out to other community transportation projects such as Tillsonburg and Perth, and we are currently working with SCORE as well. The idea is community transportation, so we do need to work together. The transportation service provider that we have selected is Voyago. They have lots of great experience, and they're also providing the service to Strathroy and Tillsonburg. They are ready to go when we are. So next week, our team will be hosting a virtual focus group. Because of COVID-19, we switched over to virtual and we still continue on. We're putting together a survey and we're looking for feedback on proposed routes. Right now, we're looking at 3 routes. We're looking for feedback on times and frequency, on stops and pricing. Shortly, we will be issuing a press release regarding the survey. So at this time, we're planning for the soft launch in August. We're trying to be optimistic, and a full implementation in September when students go back to school. Of course, this could change because everything's changing on a day-to-day basis. However, Middlesex County and Thames Centre, and thanks very much to our champions, the mayor and the deputy mayor, we're very excited about moving forward with this, and we're excited.
All right, Cindy, thank you so much. It is an exciting project. I think for decades in Middlesex County, transit has been a challenge. Moving people has been a challenge, especially for our vulnerable community, for our seniors, our students, and our working poor. So I think this is a real opportunity to move that forward and really move the needle. So thank you for your leadership on that project. Speaking of transit and transportation, I want to talk to Mr. Trainey for a second, who is also working hard on a central garage renovation that was a big part of 2019. And maybe you can talk a little bit about highway safety and road assumption too, Chris. There he is.
Got disconnected.
No, okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so we're excited with the Ford government announcement last week that municipal projects, or I guess last weekend, municipal projects have been given a green light to proceed in the province. We're working with our awarded contractor, Elgin Construction, and Matter Architecture Inc., who was the consultant for the project, to move forward with our central garage rehabilitation. It's about a $2 million project that we're working on. It's going to provide us some space and some flexibility for our road staff to finally all be under one roof. For decades, we've been separated, our technical staff and our operations staff. And we've had a real challenge with efficiency, getting having to move staff back and forth on a regular basis in order to collaborate and to work together on projects. So we're finally moving towards the next phase, a rehabilitation of a building that was built in the 70s. We're able to do that now because of a more robust internet connection that we have at Central Garage. And the project really is the removal of the front of our building and the addition of about 5,000 more square feet of space. So it's office space. It's going to be some shared space. It will be space that's available for some of our other staff, as Bill mentioned earlier. Our goal is to decentralize and get closer to the people we serve in the county. And this certainly will be a space where some of our planners could work from a day-to-day basis, our roads technical and operational staff, our forestry officer, our health and safety standards officer, and others to utilize this facility. There will be meeting room space, there'll be office space for us to move into the future with the roads department.
Great. You want to talk about highway safety and road assumption?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I missed your intro. I didn't know how far you wanted me to go.
Oh, that's good. I said really great things about you. Yeah. Go ahead. Highway safety.
So, as most of you know who know me, highway safety is really one of my passions, one of the things that I've really been invested in my career. I'm actually the treasurer of the London Middlesex Road Safety Committee right now. And we're moving forward with some different safety initiatives through the county. I'm excited to say that we are going to install 3 sets of what we call enhanced rumble strips. We've heard concerns that people have seen evidence of people running stop signs in the county, especially in our rural locations. So next Monday, we're actually going to be out installing enhanced rumble strips at Melbourne and Glendon Drive, followed by Nairn Road and Ilderton Road, and also by Nairn Road and Center Road. So we're going to install these enhanced rumble strips to give drivers a better sense of an approaching stop sign. And our hopes that will eliminate people running through the stop signs unintentionally. We're still challenged, of course, in this county and across the world with people who do things that are not safe, running stop signs intentionally, speeding. We're having a challenge right now with speed racing because of COVID. There's less people on the roads. And we're also working hand in hand with the OPP and the provincial government to get better collision data reporting for municipalities and to improve OPP traffic enforcement across Middlesex County and Ontario. So we're working strongly hand in hand with those agencies to make sure that we can have a good safety strategy moving forward. We'll continue to monitor these areas to see what kind of performance we're getting out of some of these enhanced safety infrastructure measures. The other thing that we did last year, which is something we do every 5 years, is we did a county road assumption study, and this time we actually looked at bridges. Many of you may know that we did a bridge inventory research project a few years ago at the direction of the warden at the time and county council, and we have a very good database of our bridge infrastructure at the county and our local level and the condition of those bridges. So part of this study, one of the things coming out of it is going to be an investigation to see if there are technologies that we can use for bridge replacements so that we get more robust infrastructure in the future. One simple example is replacement of a complex bridge structure, potentially with a concrete box culvert, which certainly has proven to have a longer life cycle than a traditional bridge. And we're going to move forward with that report later in this year. The basic outcome of the road assumptions is the county assumed about 36 kilometers of road across the county, so about a 2% increase in the county road system. And the main reason for this, the benefit of this, is that the county is set up, particularly for winter maintenance, but for maintenance in general, so that we can meet the prescribed regulations under the minimum maintenance standard under the Municipal Act, which helps keeps our roads safe and actually protects the county from liability arising out of any motor vehicle collisions or injuries on our road network. So the roads that we assumed actually are going to be provided a level of service in accordance with those regulations, which at times can be difficult for some municipalities to manage under their current maintenance schedules. It also creates new geographical connections. One of the roads we assume is Whalen Line in Luca-Badolf, home of our warden, and certainly going to help us provide a connection between 2 provincial highways, Highway 23 and Highway 4. There's a lot of truck traffic on that route, and it's a connection that will benefit mostly business and agribusiness, and that we see a lot of trucks using that route to get through Middlesex County and places in the north. And we are excited and ready to go with that. Those roads will be assumed in the county road system as of August 1st of this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate your leadership on that. Next on our list is to talk about 2020 and beyond, now that we've had a quick look back. Oh, wait, they might have a question. Chris, before you go, are they being done as trials, these intersections? Carriage and Longwood Road is another bad intersection as well. Are these being done as trials, these intersections? Or are these going to be this way forever? I think that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Bill. Really what we've done and implemented in the county as a background to that too is that we do safety intersection audits. So our staff go out, measure intersections, look for deficiencies and easy fixes. So sometimes, it'd be as simple as cutting down a tree or cutting down some vegetation, making some grading changes, updating some signs, those types of things. So we go out and look at intersections as requested. The enhanced rumble strips, we do a normal rumble. Sorry, I got muted on my accident. We do a normal rumble strip now, but certainly are open. Anyone listening in or anyone who has a concern or watching this after the fact, please feel free to contact us at the county with safety concerns. send us an email, and we certainly will go out and look and see if we can do things. There's certainly some very low cost, high effectiveness solutions. But the enhanced rumble strips is a fairly new science. It's a different pattern of rumble strips, and we're going to try those. And if they're effective, it's something we will implement across the county at intersections where they're.
Thanks, Chris. We have a couple other questions, but I think I'll save them for a little bit later in the presentation. And I'll focus now in on 2020 and beyond. And one of the questions that I got was about the provincial government, the relationship. And Cathy and I were both talking this morning just about where we were a year ago or so in terms of relationship. There was a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth. We have 36 different service areas at the county, and every single one of them was affected by proposed legislative change or actual change. And so there's a lot of work to do. And that's a little bit more aggressive than when we see new provincial governments come into place, but this government certainly did have a mandate to make some significant changes. And the question I received from Alan was, those initial rough waters, have they settled and are they getting better? I'm paraphrasing Alan, so I apologize. But yes, for sure. We have an amazing relationship with our local MPP. We have an amazing relationship, I think, with the provincial government, and have a good understanding of what they want to do, and they have a good understanding of what we want to do. We're really focused in on how we can support the common taxpayer, how we can create efficient and effective service delivery in a rural and small urban environment. And we have all kinds of opportunity to help them understand what we need in terms of support to make that happen. So I don't remember a time, I've been here, I'm going to have to guess, but I think it's been a while. It's been more than 2 decades that I've been here, and I forget how many years exactly, but maybe that's part of being here that long. But I don't remember a time where we've had this kind of relationship with provincial government, honestly. They are very communicative with us. We were actually dealing with an issue at county council, our last county council meeting, and our local MPP texted me in the middle of it and asked how we were doing at Strathmere Lodge with COVID and other things. And I know Neil has a great relationship with the Ministry of Health. And no, this is definitely the golden era in terms of communication with the province and working with them. We feel very confident about that. And as we go forward, we really have to think about a lot of things. The provincial relationship is one of them. How do we maximize that for the benefit of our residents? And the warden said that really she's very interested in strategic planning and us having one, and it's a great time for it. Because my contract's coming to an end in the next few years, so we have to think about succession. We have to think about delivery models in this new environment. We're very supportive of a decentralized delivery model, not putting a singular building in a community and expecting that to be the way we deal or help our citizens. We know that there's going to be community investment needed going forward simply because of what's been going on in the economy. And we know we need sustainable funding, and we definitely have to look at taxation. We have challenges related to the fact that our tax base is primarily made up of residential taxes. And that is a recipe for disaster. And we have to look at how we diversify and lower taxes going forward so that we can, that it's sustainable for our residents. So there's lots to think about, and with that in mind, we started a strategic planning process, and all of our local councillors and CAOs and all of our county councillors are going to be involved in the strategic plan in some form or fashion. And the first way you can become involved is to watch in the next week or so. You're going to see our survey come out where we're going to be asking you some questions that you can help educate our strategic plan. We're going to take that information and a lot of other background information that we've gathered. There's been a number of you at the local level are doing strategic plans right now, and that work has educated what we need to do as well, and what type of partnerships we can have going forward. So we're having 2 half-day sessions for strategic planning at the county level. And then once that work is done, we're going to ship it back to you and get feedback from the leadership at the lower tier, and also from the community for comment, and then we'll really have focused execution on getting that implemented. So the strategic plan is going to be a big highlight that we talk about next year, but you're going to start seeing that roll out in the next week or so. And so please do your best to help us out with your feedback on the strategic plan. Another thing, whenever I come out to do the local council visits, I often talk about the county budget and sort of give you an update on what's going on there. Sometimes we're even out before to visit, before the county budget's complete. But the county budget was passed in March, in the early part of March, with a 1% tax rate increase and a 7.7% levy increase. And really there was 2 or 3 main drivers. We did have a 10% increase in health unit costs, but we had a pretty big increase in 22% increase in social housing costs. For those of you that understand how CMSMs work, you'll know that that's a bill we get from the City of London, who delivers social housing across our region. And likewise, we deliver land ambulance across the entire region, including to the City of London. And we had a 15% increase in land ambulance costs. Now, in regard to that 22% social housing cost, we've had some great questions, by the way, about social housing across the county, and please keep them coming, because we've asked the social housing team at the city to come and talk to county council about where this money is going and how that's going to benefit our residents. And it is not going to happen at our next council meeting, but it's likely going to happen at our council meeting after that. So keep watch for that, and I'll make sure your local CAOs know that that presentation is coming. And then on the land ambulance side, I have a couple of questions. Okay, I'll get to those questions in a little bit. On the land ambulance side, we had a 15% increase in our budget for land ambulance, and that is primarily because we had a 17% call volume growth. And Neil is is in charge of our Middlesex London Paramedic Services. He's our chief. Nice to see you, Neil. You're looking very happy there today. It looks like, where did we catch you today? Where are you today?
I'm in my boardroom.
Oh, all right, there you go. So I invited Neil to just talk a little bit here about land ambulance and where we're going. But before I do, I just want to talk a little bit more about the budget. We really had 2 major things that affected the budget. That 17% call volume growth is something that Neil and I have never seen. We've been responsible for land ambulance for going on 20 years, and we've never seen a year-over-year 17% call volume growth. It's just incredibly unprecedented. But the other thing that is a big effect on our budget is offload delays, and that's costing us greater than 2 full ambulance crews per day. I think most of you have seen the stories that have been in the paper about this, or on even better yet, on CTV News, where you're seeing a picture of or even if you've been to the hospital yourself, you can see a whole fleet of ambulances waiting there in offload delay. And that has a tremendous cost. And we had to respond to the call volume growth and those offload delays. And we added 2 new 24-hour ambulances. And that really was the bulk of our ambulance increase this year. So Neil, why don't you talk a little bit? I mean, you're on the front lines of COVID every day. And we appreciate your service and the leadership you're providing to the team. But why don't you talk a little bit about how paramedic services are going to be delivered differently in a COVID world, and also how community paramedicine fits into a new COVID world, and any other observations you have?
Well, thanks, Bill, and good afternoon, everyone. So COVID for paramedic services certainly has changed our practice for our frontline staff. They've obviously have a lot of experience in dealing with infectious diseases through SARS, through H1N1, and most recently through Ebola. But to be quite honest, COVID is a different infection that we're learning about each and every day. Certainly our paramount priority has been from the beginning the safety and protection of our staff so that they can look after the patients, and certainly personal protective equipment, or as you folks would know it, PPE, has been a challenge, something that I must admit our logistics team and all our staff have worked hard to ensure that we never ran short, and we continue to be at a good point in time to ensure that our team do have that PPE. The big area that certainly is of importance and that has changed for us is that we are seeing most calls are pre-screened as COVID nature calls. So our paramedics in the past would just go in as they are, sort of like I am, but now they're going into the majority of calls in a gown, masks, gloves, face shields, and goggles. So they're fully protected because of the high risk of exposure. A lot of our practices in the back of the ambulance have been modified at times, especially dealing with respiratory issues. We do what's called an aerosolized procedure. So we're misting something or medication or having high concentration of oxygen. That has now been changed because that exposes a lot of our medics. So in that sense, practice has changed, and we're obviously retooling as we go through this. Most recently, almost on a weekly basis, we're seeing new screening tools not only for our dispatch center, but for our paramedics, as well as hospitals. And so we're continuing to evolve around that. With regards to community paramedicine in the past, as you know, with the community paramedicine program, it was really designed to keep people who have chronic, complex care issues in the home and to avoid them from calling the paramedics repeatedly, and to try and keep them in the away from the emerge department and better managed at home. Now, during COVID, because of the risk, we sort of scaled that back temporarily, and we reassigned our community paramedics into the assessment centers in London to help with the assessing of potential patients that require to be swabbed. And from that, our community paramedics then moved actually into swabbing within the community, so within long-term care homes, which you're hearing about, as well as what we call mobile swabbing teams that are going into the community, working alongside with Middlesex London Health Unit to ensure that as many patients that are required to be swabbed are swabbed. The second phase of this is that we are working with the Ontario Health West teams to better respond to COVID patients that are going to be in the homes that may be of a palliative care nature to better support that. But post-COVID, we are also looking at ways that our community paramedics and Middlesex London Paramedic Service can better integrate with the Ontario Health West team itself. And certainly COVID is a good opportunity to increase that stakeholder and collaborative relationship, and certainly has taught us all valuable lessons. Bill, I'll hand it back to you to see if there's anything further you'd like. Thank you.
That's perfect, Neil. Thank you very much. I think we are living in a new COVID world, and we really appreciate the work that your team is doing. And this COVID world has been interesting to us because we had a lot of plans for how we could do things differently administratively and more efficiently. And it seems like the COVID environment that happened for us on March 16th really gave us not enough time to plan for it. But then a lot of things that we thought were impossible all of a sudden became possible under the pressure of that time. And that's from legislative change to a number of other things, just even employee attitude, or even in terms of partnership attitude. So, or approach. And so we're pretty excited about the work we've been able to do, but it is a difficult time for all of our employees. And it's also a time whenever we've had to make some aggressive responses to the challenge that's out there. And in the first week, March 16th was my birthday. I remember it well because we spent the whole day dealing with employee safety and making sure that we had closed the building properly, and we had provided the protection and support that they needed to make sure that no one was injured. And coming on the screen here now is the newest member of our senior management team. Jessica Nye is our Director of Human Resources. And Jess, why don't you just tell us a little bit about some of the employees, about how the employees are doing in this new environment, and also about our work from home.
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon, everyone. At this time, employee morale is pretty high. We've received a lot of comments from staff and how they feel supported from everyone at the county. We constantly check in with them in various ways to see how they're adjusting to working from home. We have received various forms of feedback from them on how they're doing, constraints that they have, and that information we are gathering to prepare our work from home policy. And we take that information to help us work towards a more centralized service delivery model.
Perfect. Okay. And so I think a lot of the work we're doing now and understanding how our employees are working from home will certainly help us when we go to a decentralized model and help educate us as we go forward. Don't you think, Jessica?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And so we're learning little things every day, but even about the warden's constantly reminding me that the warden and I check in on each of the employee groups fairly regularly, and we have themes each week. And just recently, the warden said, a couple of weeks ago, the warden said, you know, this week let's talk about mental health and about how people are dealing with things at home. And another week we focused on their workspace, and another week we focused on how their efficiencies are improving and as they get in this environment. And most recently, we've been talking about how many people are actually interested in coming back to work. And what are your fears about coming back to the office, not back to work, but coming back to the office. So these service alterations have had a pretty big impact on our employees, but I think they're all doing really well, as Jessica said. So thank you, Jessica, for the work you're doing. The very first week that we looked at this challenge in March, I said to the warden, you know, we're going to need something in terms of economic recovery, because this is not going to just be a problem around service delivery. In a few weeks from now, when this is over, we're going to have a significant challenge. We are a community of small businesses primarily, and we just don't have one large Toyota plant to rely upon. And Kara, you're at the front lines. Kara Finn's here, our Director of Economic Development. And Kara, why don't you just talk a little bit about the Economic Recovery Task Force you're working with the warden on?
Sure. So thank you, everyone. So as you know, this is a whole new world for so many of us, but for our business community, this is an extreme change for them. So first and foremost, as soon as COVID hit, we did what we could to communicate. We've put together, as many of your offices have in suit, put together a resource page, and we update that on a regular basis. We also post an email to our business community so that the industry is as informed as we are. We then took it upon ourselves to create the Middlesex Economic Resiliency Task Force, which is being co-chaired by myself and the warden. So thank you very much for her leadership in that regard. That was officially put in place on April the 14th, and we quickly had our first meeting the next day. So the group has 2 meetings now under its belt, and it's going to keep meeting on a bi-weekly basis for the time being. That group has completed a phase 1 business impact survey, rolled up that report both locally and regionally with our partners at Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. And they as well have formed a very active economic development group, which I'm a part of. Our phase 2 business impact survey wrapped up on May the 1st, and that report will be disseminated following our task force meeting next week, along with the regional report. Our group is using the data from these surveys, as well as a number of other industry research to really inform our next steps, including what will be a recovery plan. The minutes and the reports are all being shared with council, as well as our local MP and our MPPs to inform their work. You can also find the minutes on the COVID-19 website of the county at this time under the business resource page. We're partnering with industry partners such as SWATC to deliver tourism marketing supports, inform the respective minister, and to offer specific training for our operators who have been very hard hit by COVID. We've launched several local support campaigns, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, such as the hashtag Middlesex Strong, which is running for the greater part of the time that we have been working remotely. We've been running a business profile series, a support local dining guide we're partnering with planning to map out. And we have a new and very, very well received visit list, which is a program featuring one related business every weekday in May. Because we had to cancel our experiential tourism program that was supposed to run this week, we've designed a full experiential tourism curriculum. We've provided that to our operators at no cost. And we are able to do that thanks to a 100% grant from FedDev Ontario. And thanks to that grant and several local sponsors, we're also continuing with our plan to develop a Middlesex culinary guide that'll feature local producers and restaurants and be out this summer. Let's see, we've been continuing to field individual business inquiries on a daily basis in our department. We've heard from several manufacturing businesses interested in setting up shop in Middlesex County over the last few weeks. We've also heard from companies looking to access hiring programs and those looking to expand or modify their operations to adapt to the new normal. So we're working individually with those. When it comes to workforce development, our task force is able to work together with our Middlesex Workforce Partnership. We received a RED grant this year that allows us to partner with CTV and other media and continue to promote our Work in Middlesex platform. So that's been very effective right now with all of the changes to labor force and hiring and shifting of careers. They're very, very busy. We're also running to that end a virtual employer roundtable session next week, and we're looking to partner on other specific webinars as topics of interest come forward, and those are being presented in those surveys and other research. We're supporting OFA right now in a targeted labor market project. We're discussing similar projects with other regional partners. We're restructuring our investment attraction strategies right now to focus on a more digital approach, which makes sense for 2020. And we are revisiting our economic development strategic plan this year. So in the fall of 2020, we'll be reaching out to all of you, all of our key stakeholders and all of our business community to set our best course of action for 2021 and beyond.
Awesome, thank you, Kara. I'm sure we'll have some questions about that as we go along. I've got a number of questions here, but I think I'll try to save these questions for the end, and we'll just keep going in our presentation right now, if I can make it go forward. So the warden asked a good question to me early on in this COVID battle, and she said, you know, what does the future look like for the county of Middlesex in terms of everything? And I can tell you, we thought that last year was a time of change because of the provincial government's legislative changes and how they looked at all, 36 of our service areas. There's nothing that COVID hasn't touched in terms of our services. And what I mean by that is we've had to revamp everything. Now, luckily, we're in a great position. It's fantastic timing that we sold our building at the top of the market. It's fantastic timing that we sold our building whenever the world is going more virtual. And we had already had a few people working in a very large set of properties. And it was already great timing that we're working with local municipalities in legal, planning, and IT virtually. So we had a lot to learn from and a lot that we could expand upon and build on, but we've got to do more. We've got to get moving forward in this new world if we're all going to come out of this in an efficient and effective way. And we need more partnerships. And as Morgan said earlier, we've been thankful and just so grateful for the partnerships we're developing with the local CAOs and the local municipalities, because we think that this is how we're going to come out of this stronger, is by strengthening those partnerships we already had and making them just bulletproof going forward. And we also know that we're going to have community development support from food banks all the way through to resource centers. We're going to need to be able to support groups in a different way than we have before. Traditionally, we've let those third-party groups operate for themselves and haven't had, they've done very well and grown organically, but I think we're going to see a period of time where everything from childcare all the way through is going to need new types of supports to survive coming out the other side of this. Of course, Kara just talked about business support. That's a no-brainer. There's going to have to be a lot of work done in Kara's department and frankly, all our departments to support business in new ways. We're thinking through how we access facilities, and I talk to this with my local CAO colleagues all the time. I talk about it, and it's going to be a new world. It's going to be a new way of doing business as long as this virus is part of our lives. And we're thinking about how we can work together to limit the impact on our citizens of facility access and also in terms of cost. And so that's great. Alternative work arrangements, I mean, every industry is looking at this and understanding, and the work Jessica's doing with our employees about making alternate work arrangements better, I think is going to be fantastic, because we really at the county want to have a smaller footprint. We want to be virtual where we can be, and we want to be with you and with the residents where we can be. We don't want to be off in the castle in London. We want to have a much smaller footprint going forward. And I mentioned taxpayer support earlier, and we are contemplating, if we can complete our sale of property in a timely way, then we're contemplating with council soon the idea of levy deferral, which should provide some great taxpayer support. And we've already talked to your treasurers and CAOs about that possibility. But the one area that we're focused in on the most at the moment is virtual service delivery, and how that happens is something that every county and every municipality is struggling with. And fortunately, like I said, we had a head start in many of our areas. And the future of public libraries is something, though, where I'm really struggling with what that's going to look like. We have a great head start because we have comprehensive libraries. Does that mean that we can have shared service counters where we have comprehensive libraries, so the public can get all of their information in one spot and not have to have too many interactions with staff, have cross-trained staff where we could have shared service counters? Something we need to think about. Even just how we interact at the library with our residents, and what does that mean around social distancing? What does it mean around handing out PPE, personal protective equipment? What does it mean for book distribution? How do we make sure that all of this, that all the books we're distributing aren't also distributing a virus? So many questions, and I can tell you that the person who has all the answers just appeared on the screen. No, I'm joking, Lindsay. I think we're all trying to figure out what this is going to look like, but we're getting closer. I think we're getting closer to figuring out the future of public libraries in a COVID world. And one of the things I want, Lindsay Brock's on the screen, and Lindsay is responsible for our libraries. And one of the things I want Lindsay to talk about is something I'm really excited about, is the work that the library has been doing in virtual programming. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Thanks, Bill. So our virtual programming strategy really began as a way to re-educate the public about what the library has to offer in terms of our digital collections and resources, and to make sure people knew we were still here to support them even though our facilities were closed. So I just want to briefly mention what we have running now and what our goals are moving forward. So you can find our virtual programming on our Middlesex County Library Facebook page, and content is also shared on our Twitter and Instagram feeds. As well, we're using the library website, which is library.middlesex.ca. We have a blog section that is regularly updated with new content, resources, and activities there. So a wide variety of useful information that we're working on updating frequently. So with our virtual programming, we're really trying to reach all age groups and audiences. As you may know, the library administers the Early On program for Middlesex County. So this is the provincially funded early years programming for children, families, and caregivers. So our Early On staff have the 0 to 6 age group covered with their daily circle time programs and activities that you may have seen through our Facebook feed. And they also provide some support programs for parents and caregivers. Middlesex also has their own page, and their website address is middlesex.ca/earlyon if you want to find more information there. And then our library staff are generally focused on programming for older children, youth, and adults. So a few of the things that we have running, you may have seen our quiz night program, which runs 3 nights a week. We have a different trivia quiz each night with content generated by staff, and an average of 200 people participate each night. We've had up to over 300, really successful program that's running right now. We have a virtual book club running through Facebook. We just moved on to our second book. It's called The Museum of Modern Love, which people can download from Hoopla, and that's one of our digital subscriptions. We're running weekly online viewing parties. So we promote a different movie each week that's available on CBC or a similar platform, and participants can watch and discuss the movie at the same time with library staff facilitating that discussion. We've modified our seed library program, which typically runs in branch around this time of year. So we're in the process right now of distributing vegetable seeds to food banks around the county, and they're really excited to be able to get those out to their users. Then we have wildflower seed packets that are going to be available for people to request. So we're promoting this on our Facebook page. People can send us an email, and then we'll mail a packet of those wildflower seeds to them. So just trying to adapt some of our physical in-branch programs to be offered virtually. We're working on offering a virtual book club for kids, so likely using Zoom with parental permission and giving kids a chance to interact with one another and have some fun with books. And we're also working on a virtual readers advisory service to help people find their next book to read or listen to. On the communication side, we're also enhancing how people can communicate with us. So we have our general email account. It's librarian@middlesex.ca. We're getting a lot of communication through this back and forth. And we're also using this to issue virtual library cards to new users so they can access resources from home. So we've issued over 150 virtual cards to be happy about. As well, we're getting an instant message chat service set up. So this will help us with, especially with those technology related questions that we're getting, help us answer those a little quicker. And then we're setting up a phone check-in service. So where people can request a call back on a variety of topics. If they want reading recommendations, if they want to just chat about a book, if they need help accessing something on our website. We're really just trying to bridge that gap for some of our users who may struggle with technology or not have access to it at all. That's one of the big challenges we're facing right now. So we started out in March with how we can connect with people and kind of keep them entertained, but this is really, we see it kind of evolving into how can we establish and maintain those connections with people so that we can keep serving them no matter whether our doors are open or not, because we know we're going to have to continue to serve people virtually for a period of time. Even when the province gives us that go ahead, which we're waiting for, some people will not want to visit the library. Other people may not be able to physically leave their homes still. So we may go through those periods of closure and reopening. So we're preparing for all of that. And what we're doing right now is really taking that closer look at those essential services that we help deliver that typically require a physical interaction. And we're seeing what we can do to make changes and try to provide more services to those people in need. So a lot of challenges to consider, but those virtual connections that we've worked to establish over the past month and a half will really help us grow those online services and continue to meet the needs of our community.
Perfect, Lindsay. Thank you so much. And we had a question. Okay, Bex, I know. We had a question about how we're going to proceed and whether we're going back to the new normal. And really the answer is no. I mean, I think with all of our service delivery areas, there's a real opportunity here to become more efficient and effective thanks to some legislative change that's taken place. I can give you a good example. We used to do our intakes face-to-face, and maybe the new normal of doing that, or the new way of doing that virtually, is actually better. There's less transportation costs, there's less interaction that where the viruses could be passed, and whenever you have a base level interaction that's required, this new way of doing things virtually may be the way to go. And I think in every single one of our service areas, I can honestly say going back to the old way of doing it is not the way I think that we're thinking about it. We're thinking about what can we learn from this time to make the new service better, more efficient and effective, now that we have some legislative change and some willingness to do it this way. So that doesn't mean, I think, that we won't be doing local council visits in person next year if we're able to, but it does mean that in all our service areas, we are thinking this through. So thanks, Lindsay. And speaking of areas where we're thinking things through, planning. And Dirk Vanderwerf is here. And Dirk's our director of planning, and he's also responsible for the local planning program. And the really good part about the planning program from my perspective is that it was pretty virtual before, but there's been a lot happening, Dirk, in terms of legislative change and in terms of how we're delivering a service both locally and at the county level. And so why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, well, thank you to the Warden and Bill. You know, as Bill just mentioned, you know, our department was actually quite well positioned to work remotely. We already had a number of staff that use technology to work at different locations from day to day. So we were up and running 100% by all of our staff by the end of day one remotely. And frankly, we've had some positive feedback from the development community and from the public concerning not only our planners and our staff, but also the local staff that often are the first point of contact for people with planning applications. We've had a number of people comment that they're surprised that we are up and running very quickly compared to some other jurisdictions. So the other challenge that we've had, aside from just where we're working, is that the regulatory context for the land use plan has evolved during the emergency. Initially, the province enacted a regulation that was province-wide across all areas that essentially froze planning. Since then, right after Easter, they did amend the Planning Act and also issued a new regulation that changes the rules during the emergency. It suspended many, but not all, periods of time during the emergency. There were some technical things. A number of applications had to be reissued, and your local municipal staff have done that. But the fundamental thing that the new regulation did is it really gave municipalities the choice. Municipalities can either sort of pause consideration of all or some planning applications, and while you deal with other matters that are pressing, and there's no appeal of that action during this time period. And then the second option is the province allowed municipalities to make decisions on planning applications using electronic channels to engage and solicit feedback from the public. So each municipality has to make that decision. If your municipality decides to pause, then our staff will continue to work with your local staff and have everything ready and pre-drafted and ready to go for when meetings are started again. If a municipality decides to continue to make decisions on all or certain land use planning applications, we're prepared to work with that too and move forward with electronic and virtual public meetings. So certainly, and that's I think a key area, if I can, Bill, that the province, the position has evolved on that. Initially, the province was recommending against having planning public meetings and other public meetings where you solicit direct input and feedback from the public. The province has now changed that position to leave it to municipalities to make the determination. And we all know that there are some challenges in holding electronic meetings. We know that there are issues of equity and access out there, whether it's when using technology, whether it's equipment or broadband access or user ability. So although we can't, I don't think that we can 100% replicate a traditional public meeting using technology. We do believe that the risk can be minimized should municipalities wish to move forward in that way. And I think 3 of our municipalities are already scheduling that, and we're getting ready for that. So my final thought, I guess, is there is an unknown. It just remains to be seen how this event impacts the development industry. And so far, it's actually quite busy. As spring is gearing up, we are still getting all of those contacts, and a lot of files are moving forward. But there is this unknown as to sort of how a particular residential development is going to proceed.
Perfect. Thanks, Dirk. Another area where we've seen lots of change in legislation and in terms of how the service delivered is Strathmere Lodge. And I want to bring in Brent Kerwin, who, like Neil, is on the front lines of protecting our residents against COVID. And Brent, I'm not sure, are you able to join us? Okay. Well, maybe Brent will join us in a second, but I'll just talk about Strathmere Lodge, and we're very fortunate at this point that very early on in the Strathmere Lodge story on March 16th, oh, there's Brent, we were able to make some adjustments in terms of how people entered the building, and we got a lot of support from the provincial government for that. And I think that's really helped us, Brent, with making sure that the spread of COVID was limited. And so far, knock on wood, we don't have any cases at Strathmere Lodge, and let's keep it that way. So Brent, why don't you talk about some of the service alterations and legislative change you're seeing?
Yeah, so maybe I'll just start. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just start by indicating that the Lodge has had no COVID cases to date, and you stole my line, Bill, knock on wood.
Oh, okay.
We have been doing, though, some testing of both residents and staff, playing it safe whenever there's any indication, any inkling of a symptom. And so far, luckily, of course, all those test results have come back negative. Speaking of testing, as we speak, we are doing whole home testing of all of the residents. That, of course, is a provincial mandate now. So all of our residents will be swabbed today and tomorrow. And we are waiting for public health to give us the date when all staff will be swabbed as well. And we're expecting that probably early next week. I think the target to do all residents and all staff of all homes is mid-May. As you've indicated, Bill, we are following various provincial orders and directives that have come down as a result of the pandemic. No regular visitors, and that's been since, well, for almost 2 months now. So things are pretty quiet around here without the visitors. Other things that we're doing, staff are being screened twice a day for symptoms at the beginning of their shift and at the end of their shift. They're answering health questions, and their temperature is being taken for fever, of course, which is one of the key symptoms of COVID. Similarly, the residents are being screened twice daily, and their temperature is being taken twice daily. Staff, everyone internally is wearing a mask, and that is mandated as well. The masks actually have gone a long way in terms of alleviating some of the personal safety concerns that the staff have had. So that has been in place for several weeks now as a result of changing mandates. In late April, the mandate came down that staff could not work in more than one health service provider organization. So we have probably upwards of 15 staff who are affected by that. And many of them, though, happily have chosen to make their one site the lodge. Another change more recently is that there's a current moratorium now on as far as new admissions coming from hospital. So of course that's to avoid the possibility of transferring a COVID case to a long-term care home, and just allows us to concentrate on protecting our existing residents. So things are going okay under the circumstances. PPE, particularly masks, were an early concern, but luckily we've sourced out a few suppliers, and of course we had the good fortune of getting that mask donation from Bruce Power. So we're in good shape.
Yes.
I think. PPE.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce Power. That
yes, for sure.
There's a little advertisement for Bruce Power, which is 90% owned by Omers, which is another good advertisement here. But anyways, Bruce Power gave us an amazing gift of PPE that
Absolutely.
we'll
yes.
eternally be grateful for.
Yeah, we continue to facilitate virtual visits between residents and families using the iPad technology, so that continues to be well received. Staff are great in terms, or being great in terms of their attendance, very, very good attendance. And we continue to work with staff in terms of answering their questions, and again, trying to alleviate any personal safety concerns that they have. So again, so far, so good, Bill.
Do you have any wood to knock on, Brent? Or?
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, my friend, and thanks for the good work you're doing out there to protect our residents. We appreciate it. Warden, I think we're at the end of our time today, but we're going to take some time, if that's all right, to just answer some questions I've received, and we have quite a few of them. Oh, that's nice. Frank Kenneth just said that his mom's at the lodge, Brent, and he really appreciates the FaceTime calls, and I think everybody does. We're trying to adapt to provide the social contact in this world and in this new world, and that's one thing that we can do to help our residents. And we've received a number of nice notes from family members too, because sure, we err on the side of caution, but I think the family members appreciate that. Despite the lack of access they've had, they know, you know, the letters I've received, the emails I've received are recognition that it's a necessary precaution, and they appreciate it. So that's great. Thanks for saying that, Frank.
Bill, I might just jump in and just remind
please.
everybody, at the beginning of this whole COVID situation, Strathmere put together that video of the residents that was shared. And if you haven't had the opportunity to see it, I would encourage everybody to look it up, because it was joy. And if you need a smile, that video will certainly do it.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we'll make sure that the link gets sent out to our local CIOs, and that'll help there. It is, the people do great work on behalf of our residents out there, and we really appreciate them. Alan asked a question, and I'll just paraphrase most of it, Alan, but well, maybe I'll just read it. The cost of COVID-19 is monumental in the treasuries of higher government levels. What do you see as the future impact to lower levels of government in funding? No one has a crystal ball, but can we assume that there will be leaner times ahead? Someone will have to pay for this. Who will it be? Question mark. Alan. Yeah, so, and this actually bleeds into another question I was asked about stimulus. I think Jill had a similar question about stimulus, and I guess what I'm seeing is I do participate at the provincial and federal level on a number of panels talking about different things. At the provincial level, we did a lot of work on thinking through the costs of some of these things in the past. And at the federal level, though, I talked to a lot of folks there about strategy and what they're doing moving forward. And, you know, the first issue was really protecting employees, and you could see that they worked hard to make sure that was the case. Then they focused on protecting businesses financially, and they did you know, I think by all accounts a reasonable job. On the employee side too, protecting the finances of employees. I can tell you, it's not only our active employees. You probably know we've laid off some employees in this time, and when we talk to them, they feel like they're being held whole, which is fantastic in terms of making sure that no one's impacted by this financially any more than need be. And so the focus on the employee, the focus on the businesses, protecting them in its current state. And then the third response is definitely going to be stimulus, and you know, a gross stimulus type of package. And what form that will come in, I don't know. But I'll just tell you what I'm encouraging through my talks at the federal level. The last time I saw this type of thing in 2008, I was disappointed, and I made it known to everybody that would listen. I was disappointed that we bailed companies out. We bailed out individual companies, auto companies, we bailed out airlines, we did that. And what I would prefer to see as the CIO of Middlesex County is that there's regional economic development stimulus that helps small businesses, that helps us grow the businesses of tomorrow, and creates new jobs, new clean jobs. That's where I would like to see the stimulus go. And I'm sure there'll be a balance of both, but definitely, Alan, I see that there is going to be new funding, but eventually, especially the new funding in the municipal level will likely be for infrastructure. There certainly is a lot of talk about that. I know that this is a conversation that's being had with municipal partners and the federal government about what that might look like. But I think we really need to, we do and are planning for a time whenever that we have to cut costs here. We already do have one of the lowest tax rates in Ontario for a county, and we're really proud of that. We're you know, at one point in time, we were half of some of our neighbors in terms of a tax rate. And we brag about that and get excited about it. But we have to do more. There's no question. And how are we doing that? By everything you saw here today. You know, not investing in a building in London and then having it sit there. Instead, selling it and trying to become more efficient in terms of your service delivery and get decentralized service delivery where we're closer to people. These are big decisions that help us get more efficient. Challenging our partners, our funding partners, asking tough questions of our funding of people that we fund about how they're spending money. Sometimes that's interpreted as hurting the relationship, but the council has a very important role to play to ask these questions on behalf of the residents about how they're spending the dollars that we're providing them. But we are trying to use technology. We are trying to use strategy. We're trying to use everything to become more efficient. And that's really what our goal is every day. That's what we get paid the big bucks for. And that's what we're trying to do. Warden, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that particular question, or can I move on to the next one?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Certainly, you know, we've all had discussions with regards to everything that you've hit on. I'm excited about the work that CARE is doing. I think that that will be great and I think it will make a difference. And I know that all of the information that we're gathering through the work, through the task force, is being shared both at the provincial and the federal level. And all of our MPs and MPPs are certainly interested in that. Certainly from the supports for our employees, you know, I am encouraged by what I'm hearing. And I can say that I've been on a couple of calls where definitely, Bill, you're right, that a stimulus program is in the works. And from what I understand, municipalities will be the benefit factor of that.
Perfect. And Frank's asked another good question. Frank, you're good with these questions, I'll tell you that. Frank's asked a good question. He said, from Strathmere, he said, with populations growing in some municipalities and shrinking in other municipalities, how do you see governance evolving at both the county and the lower tier level in the years ahead? Well, Frank, I can only tell you, and the warden will jump in here too, I'm sure. I can only tell you what I'd like to see, not from the governance level, as much as the administration level. We've talked a lot about common administration, meaning where can we share administration across to lower costs for a common taxpayer? And we're working on that through municipal modernization every day. And I think eventually we're going to see lower costs. We are seeing lower costs in legal, planning, and IT, and we're seeing a higher level of service, and we have to keep working towards that. But in terms of governance, we are strong believers in, we are not strong believers in a restructuring to a larger governance body. We believe, I think generally around the county council table and also administratively, what we believe is that the more governance, the better, because there are unique differences between Thorndale and Thames Centre, for example, the rural and the small urban, Caradoc and Strathmere, and we don't want to see that made any larger, because we think that really hurts governance. I lived through the Thames Valley District School Board restructuring. I think that was very damaging to governance. I would challenge you to tell me who your LIN member was whenever it was the size of most provinces in Canada. It just makes no sense to try to save money by cutting the people that add the greatest value in terms of communication and ideas, and who also make the least. It doesn't make any sense. That's not how we should be doing this. We should be trying to achieve the savings and the reductions at the level that I work at. And that is the way to go. And so that is what we've been working towards for a long time. And that's the way we see the world progressing as well. Warden?
Yeah, no, you know, you're absolutely right, Bill. You and I have had numerous discussions, and not just in the last few months since I've been warden, but over the number of years that I've been on county council. And you know, I think that there was a fear among a number of levels of the lower tiers last year that the provincial government was headed in a single tier approach. And you know, I think we were all fearful of that. But that is not what's happening. And I think that we can all look to the county to partner with them to create, as Bill said, efficiencies. How can we work better together? What can the county do for us while we all remain separate, while we all have our own governance structure, and while we all remain independent and unique? And I think, you know, there's one common taxpayer. Where can those efficiencies occur, and how can we work together to make sure that the work that's being done at the upper tier through the county and at the lower tier through all of our individual and unique municipalities work best? And certainly as I've seen how all of the departments have been working previous to COVID, but how they've answered the challenge of how COVID has impacted the way we work. I really think that Middlesex County and the lower tiers are in a really unique and strong position to make sure that we work well together and get those efficiencies going.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember it's not one-sided. I'm thinking about even our payroll system that we're trying to implement, where it's a joint effort of all the lower tiers coming together to provide greater capacity in payroll services at a lower cost for everybody. And that's not just one entity providing that service, that's a number of people providing it to others. And there's lots of examples of that across the county, and there needs to be more if we're going to be efficient and effective.
Yeah, and I mean, I really don't think the lower tiers should be fearful of those relationships. I think the words that you've used, efficiency and more capacity, I mean, that's what we're here to work towards.
All right, Mr. Trainee, could I ask you to find your button and come back on the screen, because Ms. Cowell has a question that I don't know the answer to. And she doesn't know the answer to, obviously, that's why she asked it. What are enhanced rumble strips, Chris? Are they deeper, bigger? Do they have a horn? What do they do?
Great question. It's a new thing. Like, it's something that, there's hundreds and thousands of people who are, all they do all day is, I call them asphalt and engineering nerds, who look at road safety and evaluate sort of, patterns of vibrations and sonics and things like that. So what they've come up with, the old rumble strip system that we have in place and have been doing for decades and is still fairly effective, is well before you get to the intersection, there's a, you all feel it if you drive around the county, almost like a bumblebee is flown into your car. You have 5 or 6 little buzzes ahead of the stop ahead sign, and then you actually get to the intersection. What we're trying now is the new technology, which is, and these only came partway through the lane. So you maybe got 2 tires on the rumble strip, maybe 4, depending on where you were in the lane. These new ones go all the way through the lane. They go all the way from the center line of the road to the edge of the road. There are 2 longer sets. So when you hit them, the vibration in your car lasts longer. You'll have 2 sets where you'll be able to see the stop ahead sign. When you reach the stop ahead sign, then there'll be a pause. And when you reach the stop ahead sign, there'll be 2 more longer. There'll be 2 more longer sets, and then you'll get to the stop sign. So the idea is that instead of having a quick little buzz where maybe if your car is rumbling and you're listening to loud music, or you're not really paying attention and you kind of have an opportunity after you hit those rumble strips to keep going and maybe miss the stop sign, the science is that this gives your body 2 chances to become aware of the oncoming stop condition. It's the whole vehicle. Every single time any vehicle going to the intersection will now have all 4 tires hit. The period of time which your vehicle actually feels the vibration is longer. So you're not having like little quick buzzes. You actually have sort of a second and then another second versus a little split seconds. So the research shows that these are more effective at reducing the number of people who would drive through the intersection because they missed the stop sign. So if that's one thing we can do, if that's one of the reasons why these collisions are happening, these enhanced rumble strips are better than what we have there now, we're certainly willing to give them a try. We're certainly going to investigate having them installed across the county. There are some disadvantages, but in these cases, these are intersections where we are seeing collisions and serious collisions, and we want to do what we can to make sure those work. And they're being done in cooperation with every other thing. Like for example, the Melbourne-Glennon Drive intersection, we've cleaned a lot of vegetation out. Southwest Middlesex has worked with the landowner to move some of the advertising signs back. We've done other things there to try and make sure the intersection is clear, better line marking. These enhanced rumble strips will be next. We've done things with the stop signs, with the stop ahead signs. These are all things that we as traffic engineers, safety engineers know are effective. So we're continuing to do those things, and we're hopeful to see a complete elimination of stop sign running, unintentional stop sign running at that intersection and others.
Wait. Chris, will they be louder than the former types of rumble strips? I guess there'll be 2 sets of noises, or so they will be louder, I guess. But you want to talk about that?
Yeah, they're definitely going to be louder. You're going to have all 4 tires or many more tires, we're talking about trucks, hitting these rumble strips. So they'll be about the same amount of sound, because the other ones are sort of like a staccato sort of sound, you know, very quick little hits. These ones will be shorter, a little bit longer, but there's fewer of them. So where we normally put 6 or so rumble strips, there's only 4 of these ones, but they're spaced out and they're a little bit longer in duration as opposed to very quick. So yeah, intentionally, and when we put new rumble strips in, like when rumble strips are first rolled into new asphalt or milled into existing pavement, for the first few years, they are much more effective and they do emanate a lot more sound than normal.
Okay, perfect. Warden, I don't see, wait. Oh, wait. I should have, I had to bite my tongue there. How likely is the OPP to create a better reporting system of info for Chris to use in planning improvements?
Great
Chris,
question.
do you have that? Okay, good. Well,
Awesome
it's from
question.
Ina. It's one of you. It's someone who signs your paycheck. So it's. I'm glad you said it was a great question. It's from Ina.
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that we're actually just dealing with. Just got an email today from the province through the Municipal Engineers Association of Ontario and the Ontario Good Roads Association. Like most of you know, I was really involved with OGRA for a number of years. We've been working with the province. They have a system called ARIS, and it's a collision reporting system. For decades, with no questions asked, the OPP provided us with collision reports, and we were able to document that information and do a database. So we were aware as municipal traffic safety officials on where we were best focused on dealing with traffic problems. In their wisdom and understanding that there's privacy laws in place, they felt that it was no longer prudent for them to share that information with us because of fear of information being leaked out for whatever reason. So they stopped doing that. And in exchange for that, they provided us access to a provincial reporting system that I think was designed in the early 70s on like an Apple IIe computer that you can put a request in for collision data, and it will give you pages and pages of comma separated, delineated ASCII text that you have to have a PhD in information technology to analyze. And even then, it's challenging. We've been very successful with the province, and again with this municipal modernization. It's also happening at the province modernization. They're going to make a more user-friendly type of interface for those who have permission to access the data. They're also going to update the way that collisions are reported. So the collision reporting forms were designed in the 60s, I believe, or early 70s. So they're going to update those so we get, first of all, get better data from the police who are attending on scene and recording the information. That information will be much better to us as far as understanding what's happening. 2 is it will be much more user-friendly for roads professionals to be able to log into the system and get exactly what they're looking for in an efficient manner. So we're working very closely with the province on that. It'll be a benefit to everyone in Ontario. And certainly will make our traffic safety initiatives much, much more effective, because right now we are really reliant on, you know, hopefully a call to the OPP will give us some information. I have about a 50-50 shot at getting information from the OPP, and certainly a taxing resource on their time to try and provide us that information. But again, information is really key, and we continue to monitor as best we can. But like I say, we're hopeful that in the near future the province will update the system so that it's better for everybody, so we can get the information quickly and have benefit to all of us.
Thanks, Chris. We had a question from Derek as well. I'm not sure this is your area, it's probably mine, but what are staff's feelings about shutting down local policing committees and moving to a single OPP detachment board instead? We, honestly, we haven't had a lot of interaction on that yet, mostly because this is a local responsibility, and it is something I think that we'll probably discuss at a future local CAOs meeting. I have been following, though, at the Warden's request, what's been going on in other counties where they already do have that type of board. And of course, in Middlesex County, we have 2 different police services. So we have to factor that in as well and how that might work. So I think, Derek, at this point, it's just been information gathering. We haven't been asked to do anything more than information gathering, but I will bring it up as a topic at the next local CAOs meeting. And we'll have a discussion about it there. And then I'll probably get back to you, Derek, directly. I started to write, please feel free to provide feedback on the format I think the OPER, and then it turned it, I pushed the wrong button. And I was about to say, I think the opportunity to talk to all our department heads was a good one, and that you seem to enjoy, and that it's something we may try again. And we really would appreciate your feedback on the format, things you'd like to see improved, whether you want us to see us do this more than once a year, and what you'd like us to talk about. All of those things we're open to hear feedback on. The Warden and I are very excited. I know I had fun. Warden, did you have fun?
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. It certainly wasn't the visit that I thought I was going to be having this year, but as one of my colleagues said, this really hasn't been the year you thought it was going to be, and that's true.
Well, normally on these visits, we hand out pens. Do you want to?
I know, exactly. I don't know how I'm going to get my stacks of CBJ pens to everybody.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, and we'll have to figure that out for sure. But I do want to echo what Bill has said. I want to thank everybody for participating and visiting with us this afternoon. Again, thank you for your time. Everybody's time is so valuable and precious, but I want to thank you, an hour and a half in the middle of the day, and we're pleased with the number of participants that we've had. It's been great to have as many of you joining us live. As we mentioned earlier, Morgan, our IT department, will be sharing with you the link to YouTube. So make sure you share that with your colleagues so that they can watch this visit on their own time. And so just a reminder that this was recorded and it will be posted. And if you have any questions, or if your colleagues have any questions after watching this, remember to email them to Bill. His email is quite easy, cao@middlesex.ca. I really hope you've enjoyed it and getting to know our department heads and senior staff a little bit better, and getting a sense of where Middlesex County is headed. I'm certainly excited for the future of the county and for the relationship that the county has with the lower tiers. We keep using that word modernization and municipal modernization. And, to me, when the province threw out the efficiency money last year, I really saw this not only as a challenge, but an opportunity as to how we can all work together to create efficiencies, but be accountable in a way to our common taxpayer that perhaps we haven't been in the past. I really see the county as being leaders in this across the province, and the relationship that the county has with the lower tiers, I would hazard to say that it is not common across the province, and we need to celebrate the relationship that is being developed and the work that is being done together. So I'm excited for the future. I hope you are. I think that's all I've got to say. Bill, anything you want to add on to that?
No, just I just one last quick thing, which is I said no, and then I'm going to say something. I really appreciate the people that asked the great questions. That's from Derek to John to everybody all the way through that ask great questions. We really appreciate those. Keep those coming. That's the way we hold ourselves accountable, and that's the way we learn. But I also just want to say thank you to you, Warden. This is not the year you expected by a long shot. And the Warden has been at my side virtually with all of our conversations with employees, all of our conversations with local CAOs, and put in an incredible amount of time that is not part of the Warden's job description. So thank you. Thank you very much for all that you've done for the county this year. We greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'll just say I had a great time, and thank you very much.
Yep, thanks very much. And hopefully we'll be able to see each other on a different platform, and I'll be able to give you my pen personally.
Have a great day, everybody.